Chapter 1. The Final Stand. The galaxy was in turmoil. The once mighty Xeraxian Empire, which had threatened to conquer and enslave all of humanity, lay in ruins, its armies shattered, and its leaders brought to justice. But the cost of victory had been high, and the scars of the war ran deep across the worlds and peoples of the Alliance. On Earth, the birthplace of humanity and the heart of the Alliance, the mood was somber and reflective. The planet had been spared the worst of the fighting, but its people had borne the brunt of the war effort, pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into the struggle for survival. Now, as the dust settled and the galaxy began to rebuild, they found themselves looking to the future with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. For Lena Soren, the weight of responsibility lay heavy on her shoulders. As the leader of the Alliance and the architect of its victory, she knew that the task of rebuilding and reuniting the galaxy would fall to her and her allies. But she also knew that the challenges ahead would be unlike any they had faced before, and that the road to lasting peace and stability would be long and difficult. As she stood before the assembled leaders of the Alliance, Lena could feel the eyes of the galaxy upon her. She knew that her words would be heard and scrutinized by billions of people across thousands of worlds, and that the fate of countless lives hung in the balance. "My friends," she began, her voice steady and calm, "we stand today on the threshold of a new era. The Xeraxian Empire, which sought to conquer and enslave us all, has been defeated, and the galaxy is free once more. But our victory has come at a great cost, and the scars of the war will be with us for generations to come." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. In the face of this challenge, it would be easy to succumb to despair, to retreat into isolation and mistrust. But that is not the human way, and it is not the way of the Alliance. For we have always been a people of hope and resilience, a species that has faced the unknown with courage and determination. As she spoke, Lena could see the faces of the assembled leaders begin to change, their expressions shifting from uncertainty to resolve. They knew, as she did, that the task ahead would be difficult, but they also knew that they had the strength and the will to see it through. And so, my friends, I ask you today to stand with me, to join me in the work of rebuilding and reuniting the galaxy. Together, we will forge a new path forward, one based on cooperation, understanding, and mutual respect. We will reach out to those who have been left behind, to those who have suffered and lost, and we will build a galaxy that is truly worthy of the sacrifices that have been made. As she finished speaking, the room erupted in applause, the leaders of the Alliance rising to their feet in a show of unity and support. Lena felt a surge of emotion wash over her, a sense of pride and purpose that had sustained her through the darkest days of the war. But even as she basked in the glow of the moment, Lena knew that the real work was just beginning. The Alliance had won a great victory, but the galaxy was still a dangerous and unpredictable place, and there would be many more challenges and obstacles to overcome in the years ahead. And yet, as she looked out over the sea of faces before her, Lena felt a sense of hope and optimism that she had not felt in years. For she knew that the human spirit was indomitable, that the potential for growth and exploration was limitless, and that together, the peoples of the galaxy could achieve anything they set their minds to. With a final nod of acknowledgement, Lena Soren stepped down from the podium, ready to begin the long and difficult task of building a new and better galaxy. The final stand had been won, but the journey was far from over, and the future was waiting to be written. Chapter 2. A Galaxy Transformed. In the weeks and months following the defeat of the Xeraxian Empire, the galaxy began to undergo a profound transformation. The Alliance, under Lena Soren's leadership, worked tirelessly to rebuild and reunite the shattered worlds left in the wake of the war, forging new bonds of cooperation and understanding between the diverse peoples and cultures of the galaxy. Across the stars, the signs of change were everywhere. On worlds that had once been occupied by the Zeraxians, Alliance peacekeepers worked side by side with local leaders to restore order and stability, providing aid and support to those who had suffered under the Empire's brutal rule. On planets that had been ravaged by the fighting, teams of engineers and scientists labored to rebuild infrastructure and restore ecosystems, bringing new life and hope to the devastated landscapes. And on Earth, the birthplace of humanity, the transformation was perhaps most profound of all. The planet had emerged from the war as the de facto capital of the Alliance, a hub of diplomacy, trade, and cultural exchange that drew visitors from across the galaxy. Its cities were now filled with a dizzying array of alien species, each bringing their own unique perspectives and traditions to the tapestry of human civilization. For Lena Soren, the change was both exhilarating and daunting. As the leader of the Alliance, she found herself at the center of a vast and complex web of relationships and responsibilities, navigating the delicate balance between the needs of individual worlds and the greater good of the galaxy as a whole. But even as she worked to build a new and better future, Lena knew that the wounds of the past would not heal easily. The Zyraxian Empire had left a legacy of fear and mistrust that would take generations to overcome, and there were many who still harbored resentment and anger towards the Alliance and its human leaders. One of the most vocal critics of the New Order was a charismatic and influential Zyraxian warlord named Karus Vek. Vek had been a high-ranking member of the Empire's military and had fought bitterly against the Alliance during the war. Now, with the Empire in ruins, he had emerged as a leader of the Zyraxian resistance, rallying the remnants of his people around a message of revenge and retribution. To Lena and the other leaders of the Alliance, Vek represented a dangerous and unpredictable threat. They knew that he commanded a loyal following among the Zyraxian people, and that his message of hate and violence could easily spark a new and even more devastating conflict if left unchecked. And so, even as they worked to rebuild and reunite the galaxy, Lena and her allies kept a close watch on Vek and his followers, monitoring their activities and working to counter their influence wherever they could. They knew that the road to lasting peace and stability would be long and difficult, and that there would be many more challenges and obstacles to overcome in the years ahead. But they also knew that they had something that Vek and his ilk could never understand or defeat: the power of unity and cooperation, the strength that comes from diverse peoples and cultures working together towards a common goal. And with that knowledge, they pressed on, determined to build a galaxy that was truly worthy of the sacrifices that had been made. As the galaxy continued to change and evolve, Lena Soren found herself reflecting on the incredible journey that had brought them all to this moment. She thought of the countless lives that had been lost, the worlds that had been shattered, and the dreams that had been deferred in the long and brutal struggle for survival. But she also thought of the incredible resilience and determination of the human spirit, the unbreakable bonds of friendship and common purpose that had sustained them through the darkest of times. And she knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, the Alliance would face them together, united in their commitment to building a better and brighter future for all the peoples of the galaxy. With a sense of renewed purpose and determination, Lena Soren looked to the stars, ready to lead the Alliance forward into a new era of peace, progress, and prosperity. The galaxy had been transformed, but the journey was far from over, and the best was yet to come. Chapter 3: The Shadows of the Past. As the galaxy continued to heal and rebuild in the aftermath of the Zyraxian War, Lena Soren and the leaders of the Alliance found themselves facing a new and unexpected challenge. The remnants of the Zyraxian Empire, once thought to be scattered and powerless, had begun to regroup and reorganize under the leadership of the warlord Karus Vek. Vek, a cunning and charismatic figure, had managed to unite the disparate factions of the Zyraxian resistance under his banner, promising them a chance to reclaim their lost glory and take revenge on those who had defeated them. He spoke of the need to purge the galaxy of the human taint, to restore the Zeraxian people to their rightful place as the rulers of the stars. At first, the Alliance paid little heed to Vec's rhetoric, dismissing him as a minor nuisance in the grand scheme of galactic politics. But as the months passed, it became clear that his message was resonating with a growing number of Zeraxians, particularly those who had been left behind in the post-war era. These were the people who had lost everything in the conflict, whose homes and livelihoods had been destroyed, and who now found themselves struggling to survive in a galaxy that seemed to have no place for them. To them, Vec's promise of a return to the old ways, of a Zeraxian empire reborn, was a powerful and seductive one. As reports of Vec's growing influence began to reach the Alliance, Lena Soren knew that she could no longer ignore the threat he posed. She and her allies had worked too hard and sacrificed too much to allow the galaxy to slide back into the chaos and violence of the past. And so, with a heavy heart, Lena began to mobilize the resources of the Alliance to counter Vec's insurgency. She dispatched diplomats and envoys to the worlds where his influence was strongest, seeking to build bridges of understanding and cooperation with the local populations. She sent teams of scientists and engineers to help rebuild infrastructure and improve living conditions, hoping to show the Zeraxian people that the Alliance was committed to their well-being and prosperity. At the same time, she worked to strengthen the Alliance's military capabilities, knowing that Vec and his followers would not be swayed by diplomacy and goodwill alone. She forged new alliances with other galactic powers, pooling resources and intelligence to better monitor and counter Vec's activities. But even as the Alliance worked to contain the threat posed by Vec, Lena knew that the true battle would be fought not on the fields of war, but in the hearts and minds of the Zeraxian people. She understood that the only way to truly defeat Vec was to offer his followers a better vision of the future, one based on hope, unity, and shared purpose.
To that end, she began to reach out to the Zeraxian communities on Alliance worlds, seeking to build bridges of trust and understanding between them and their human neighbors. She encouraged cultural exchange programs and joint ventures, hoping to break down the barriers of prejudice and mistrust that had divided their peoples for so long.
And slowly, but surely, her efforts began to bear fruit. Across the galaxy, more and more Zeraxians began to see the Alliance not as an enemy, but as a partner and a friend. They began to reject Vec's message of hate and division, embracing instead the promise of a brighter and more hopeful future. But even as the tide began to turn against him, Vec refused to give up. With a small but fanatically loyal group of followers, he launched a series of increasingly desperate and violent attacks against Alliance targets, hoping to destabilize the fragile peace and plunge the galaxy back into war. In the end, it was Lena Soren herself who confronted Vec in a final showdown on the Zeraxian homeworld. In a tense and dramatic standoff, she appealed to the better angels of his nature, urging him to lay down his arms and join the Alliance in building a better future for all their peoples. But Vec, consumed by hatred and a thirst for vengeance, refused to listen. In a final desperate act of defiance, he took his own life, choosing death over the prospect of a galaxy at peace. In the aftermath of Vec's demise, the Zeraxian resistance crumbled, its members scattering to the winds or surrendering to Alliance forces. And though the scars of the conflict would linger for generations to come, the galaxy had taken an important step forward towards a future of greater understanding, cooperation, and unity. For Lena Soren and the leaders of the Alliance, the challenges of building that future still lay ahead. But they faced those challenges with renewed hope and determination, knowing that the shadows of the past need not define the shape of tomorrow. And as the galaxy continued to heal and grow, they held fast to the belief that the human spirit, in all its resilience and indomitable will, would light the way forward towards a brighter and more beautiful dawn. Chapter 4. The Forge of Unity. As the threat of Karus Vek and his Zyraxian insurgency faded into memory, the Alliance found itself facing a new and unexpected challenge. The galactic community, once united in the face of a common enemy, began to fracture and splinter along old lines of race, culture, and ideology. On worlds across the galaxy, long simmering tensions and resentments boiled over into violence and unrest. Some blamed the Alliance for failing to address the root causes of inequality and injustice, while others accused it of overreach and tyranny in its efforts to maintain order and stability. For Lena Soren and the leaders of the Alliance, the crisis was a bitter reminder of the fragility of the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. They knew that the only way to prevent the galaxy from sliding back into chaos and conflict was to forge a new and stronger sense of unity among its diverse peoples and cultures. To that end, Lena and her allies launched a bold and ambitious initiative known as the Unity Project. The project was a massive undertaking, involving the construction of a network of space stations and outposts throughout the galaxy, each designed to serve as a hub of cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, and diplomatic cooperation. At the heart of the project was the belief that the key to lasting peace and prosperity lay not in the suppression of difference, but in the celebration of diversity. By bringing together people from all walks of life and all corners of the galaxy, the Unity Project hoped to break down the barriers of prejudice and mistrust that had divided them for so long. As the project began to take shape, Lena and her team worked tirelessly to recruit the best and brightest minds from across the galaxy to join in the effort. They sought out scientists and engineers, diplomats and artists, visionaries and dreamers who shared their belief in the power of unity and cooperation. Among them was a brilliant young xenobiologist named Arya Voss, whose groundbreaking research into the genetic similarities between different species had earned her a reputation as one of the foremost experts in her field. Arya was a passionate advocate for the Unity Project, believing that the key to unlocking the secrets of life and the universe lay in the study of the diversity of its many forms. As the first of the Unity Project's outposts began to come online, Arya and her team were among the first to take up residence, eager to begin their work of exploration and discovery. But even as they marveled at the wonders of the galaxy and the incredible diversity of its peoples and cultures, they could not escape the shadow of the past that hung over their efforts. For there were still those who saw the Unity Project as a threat to their power and influence, who feared that a more united and cooperative galaxy would leave no room for their own narrow interests and agendas. And as tensions began to rise once again, it became clear that the struggle for the soul of the galaxy was far from over. But Lena Soren and her allies refused to be discouraged. They knew that the road to lasting peace and prosperity would be long and difficult, and that there would be many more challenges and setbacks along the way. But they also knew that they had something that their opponents could never match: the power of unity and the strength of the human spirit. And so, as the galaxy watched and waited, the work of the Unity Project continued, forging bonds of friendship and common purpose that would stand the test of time. In the face of adversity and opposition, Lena and her team held fast to their vision of a brighter and more hopeful future, knowing that the only way to achieve it was to stand together, united in their determination to build a better world for all. As the years passed and the Unity Project grew and flourished, the galaxy began to change in ways that few could have imagined. The once isolated worlds and cultures of the galactic community began to come together in a spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding, bridging the gaps that had divided them for so long. And at the center of it all stood Lena Soren, the woman who had dared to dream of a better tomorrow, and whose unwavering commitment to the cause of unity had inspired a generation to follow in her footsteps. For Lena knew, as did all those who had joined her in the great work of the Unity Project, that the true forge of unity lay not in the stars above, but in the hearts and minds of those who looked to them for guidance and hope. And as long as there were those who believed in the power of that unity, the galaxy would never be truly lost. Chapter 5: The Crucible of Crisis. Just as the Unity Project was beginning to bear fruit, and the galaxy was settling into a new era of peace and cooperation, a new and unexpected crisis emerged that threatened to undo all the progress that had been made. It began with a series of strange and inexplicable events on the fringes of known space: ships disappearing without a trace, entire colonies going silent, and strange energy signatures that defied explanation. At first, the incidents were dismissed as isolated anomalies, the result of natural phenomena or simple misfortune. But as the reports continued to pour in and the scale of the crisis became clear, Lena Soren and the leaders of the Alliance knew that they were facing a threat unlike any they had encountered before. As they raced to investigate the cause of the disturbances, they discovered a chilling truth. A massive and previously unknown entity was moving through the galaxy, consuming everything in its path. It was a being of pure energy, vast and incomprehensible, and it seemed to possess a hunger that could never be satisfied. The entity, which came to be known as the Devourer, seemed to be drawn to the very fabric of space-time itself, feasting on the fundamental forces that held the universe together. And as it grew in power and size, it began to warp and twist reality around it, creating gravitational anomalies and temporal distortions that threatened to tear the galaxy apart. Faced with an existential threat of such magnitude, the galaxy once again turned to Lena Soren and the Alliance for leadership and guidance. And Lena, drawing on all her reserves of strength and determination, did not hesitate to answer the call. She mobilized every resource at her disposal, calling on the brightest minds and the bravest hearts from across the galaxy to join her in the fight against the Devourer. She forged new alliances and partnerships, reaching across boundaries of race, culture, and ideology to build a coalition of unity and purpose. At the heart of that coalition was Arya Voss and her team of xenobiologists, who worked tirelessly to understand the nature of the Devourer and to find a way to stop it. They studied the entity's energy signatures and gravitational fields, searching for any weakness or vulnerability that could be exploited. And as they delved deeper into the mystery of the Devourer, they made a startling discovery. The entity was not a simple force of nature, but a sentient being with a will and a purpose of its own. It was a creature of pure hunger and desire, driven by an insatiable need to consume and grow. Armed with this knowledge, Lena and her allies began to formulate a plan to confront the Devourer and to put an end to its rampage. They knew that they could not hope to overpower the entity through brute force or conventional weapons. They would need to find a way to communicate with it, to reason with it, and to persuade it to abandon its destructive course. And so, in a daring and desperate gambit, Lena and Arya led a small team of volunteers on a mission to make contact with the Devourer. They piloted a specially designed ship into the heart of the entity's gravitational field, braving the strange and distorted space that surrounded it. As they drew closer to the Devourer's core, they found themselves face to face with a being of unimaginable power and complexity. It was a swirling vortex of energy and matter, a maelstrom of chaos and creation that defied the laws of physics and the boundaries of mortal comprehension. And yet, as they looked into the heart of the Devourer, they saw something else as well. A flicker of intelligence, a glimmer of awareness that hinted at the possibility of communication and understanding. With nerves of steel and hearts full of hope, Lena and Arya reached out to the Devourer, using every tool and technique at their disposal to forge a connection with the alien intelligence. They spoke to it in the language of mathematics and science, in the universal tongue of reason and logic. And to their amazement and relief, the Devourer responded. It did not speak in words, but in pulses of energy and waves of gravitational force that conveyed its thoughts and intentions. And as they communicated, Lena and Arya began to understand the true nature of the entity, not a mindless force of destruction, but a sentient being as old as the universe itself, driven by a primal hunger that it could not control. Through a combination of persuasion, negotiation, and sheer force of will, Lena and Arya convinced the Devourer to abandon its destructive path and to seek a new purpose. They offered it a chance to become a part of something greater, to join the galactic community in a spirit of cooperation and mutual understanding. And in the end, the Devourer accepted their offer. It ceased its rampage and began to work with the Alliance to repair the damage it had caused, using its vast powers to heal the wounds of the galaxy and to forge a new era of peace and prosperity. As the crisis passed and the galaxy began to rebuild, Lena Soren and Arya Voss were hailed as heroes, the saviors who had stared into the face of annihilation and emerged victorious. But for Lena and Arya, the true victory lay not in their own achievements, but in the unity and cooperation that had made their success possible. For they knew that the crucible of crisis had forged a new bond between the peoples of the galaxy, a bond that would endure long after the memory of the Devourer had faded into legend. And as they looked to the future, they knew that the greatest challenges and the greatest triumphs still lay ahead, waiting to be claimed by those with the courage and the vision to seize them. Chapter 6. The Dawn of a New Era. In the aftermath of the Devourer crisis, the galaxy was forever changed. The threat of annihilation had brought the diverse peoples and cultures of the galactic community together in a way that few could have imagined possible, forging bonds of unity and cooperation that would endure for generations to come. At the center of this new era stood Lena Soren and Arya Voss, the two women who had led the galaxy through its darkest hour and emerged victorious. They were hailed as heroes and visionaries, the architects of a new and better future for all. Under their leadership, the Alliance and the Unity Project flourished as never before. The network of space stations and outposts that had once seemed like a distant dream became a reality, a shining symbol of the power of collaboration and shared purpose. From every corner of the galaxy, people flocked to these hubs of knowledge and discovery, eager to learn from one another and to contribute their own unique perspectives and talents to the greater good. Scientists and engineers worked side by side to unlock the secrets of the universe, while diplomats and artists forged new connections and broke down ancient barriers. And at the heart of it all was a newfound appreciation for the incredible diversity and resilience of life in all its forms. The Devourer, in its strange and alien way, had taught the galaxy a profound lesson about the interconnectedness of all things and the importance of cherishing and protecting the fragile web of existence that bound them all together. As the years passed and the scars of the past began to fade, the galaxy entered a new golden age of peace, prosperity, and progress. The once warring factions and species of the galactic community learned to live and work together in harmony, guided by the principles of unity, equality, and mutual respect. And though there were still challenges and obstacles to be faced, the people of the galaxy faced them with courage and determination, secure in the knowledge that they were part of something greater than themselves, a grand and noble experiment in the power of the sentient spirit. For Lena Soren and Arya Voss, the journey had been long and difficult, filled with sacrifice and hardship. But as they looked out across the thriving, vibrant galaxy they had helped to build, they knew that it had all been worth it. They saw in the faces of the people they met a new sense of hope and purpose, a belief in the possibility of a better tomorrow. And they knew that no matter what the future might hold, the galaxy would never again be divided by the lines of race, culture, or creed. For the Devourer had shown them the folly of such divisions, the weakness that lay in isolation and mistrust. And in the crucible of that crisis, the galaxy had been reborn, tempered by the fires of adversity, into something stronger, better, and more beautiful than ever before. As Lena and Arya stood hand in hand, gazing out at the stars that stretched out before them in an endless expanse of wonder and possibility, they knew that the dawn of a new era had arrived. And they knew that together there was nothing they could not achieve, no dream that was beyond their reach. For they had seen the power of unity and cooperation firsthand, had felt the awesome potential of a galaxy united in purpose and in spirit, and they knew that, as long as they held fast to those ideals, as long as they continued to strive for a better and brighter future, for all, the galaxy would continue to grow and thrive, a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and minds filled with visions of the wonders yet to be, Lena Soren and Arya Voss stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever challenges and adventures lay ahead. For they were the guardians of the galaxy's future, the stewards of its destiny. And in that moment, as the stars shone down upon them like the eyes of the universe itself, they knew that they would never be alone, that they would always have each other and the countless billions who had placed their trust and their faith in them. Together, they would build a galaxy worthy of that trust, a galaxy that would stand as a testament to the indomitable spirit of sentient life and to the power of hope, love, and unity to light the way forward, now and forever.